want to also give a shout out to Bishop Victor T. Curry for allowing us this moment where we are able to share and interview the best of the best here in South Florida and beyond. So without further ado, our first guest we would like to introduce is Rachel Riley, who is a mental health professional in the federal prison system. She is also an entrepreneur, a military veteran, and a domestic violence survivor. In the past, she served as a mentor to abused single women living in shelters while on their journey to establishing a new healthy lifestyle. This has become a dream come true for her, and she reminds herself daily, I am worthy. I will always have faith. I will never give up. I am enough. She penned the book, I Am Enough, which is riveting story about strength and determination that will empower single parents with tools to strengthen their faith, increase their ability to set goals, and practice persistence. In this memoir, Rachel walks readers through the adversities of a divorced mom who overcomes struggles and challenges. She personifies resilience and is an inspiration to those who have lost hope along the way. And ladies and gentlemen, and our family and friends of WMBM, let's welcome Dr. Rachel Rowley.
Oh, thank you. Oh my goodness, what a woo! I'm just listening and I am so happy to be here. Davika Williams, thank you for at least referring me, and thanks a lot for having me.
Well, we are honored, literally, when I met you at the honoring. Actually, it was the end of last year in December, and you were just such a powerful, bright light, a source of inspiration. Our spirits are kindred, and I'm like, the people who listen to the Good Success need that goodness that you bring and be able for you to share your story, here internationally, here live with our audience. And I knew that we needed that which you have to bring and how you carry and how you gatekeep our community in the space of mental health. And so I wanted to bring you on to Good Success, and let's get into your story.
Thank you. So, my story began. I decided at 50 years old that I was going to actually write my first book. And you bought a copy, I Am Enough. And the reason I wrote this book was because I was silent for so long. I had been through homelessness, domestic violence, just a lot that women go through on a daily basis, and we kind of stay quiet sometimes. But at 50, I decided I was going to write this book. It's a fictional memoir, so a lot of what happens in the book is part of my life story, but it's fictional because a lot of the characters are still alive, so it is fictional, quotation marks. But I decided I would write this book to help other women with dealing with some of the issues in the book. So I hope that each and every person gets it. If I could, I would give every listener a copy, but you can head on over to Amazon because it is an inspiring story for those who may think that there's no hope.
Now let's park there, because life, we phrase it's been cast on in the past year or so. Life be life.
Oh, yes.
Right? And then life be life. And I know for me, I've been in this space, that God has laid upon my heart. I was able to articulate where I was spiritually, emotionally, and mentally. And what I was navigating because of the back-to-back life be life, and I was able to coin it fractured faith.
Yeah.
So when you talk about faith and feeling like my hope tank was depleted.
Oh, yes.
And so as I was fascinating and praying and talking to God, I'm like, God, what do I do? But me as this believer, this hope dealer to the people,
God, my cup is empty and it's fractured and I'm leaking. So how can you fill this fracture so that way my cup can come back to a place where it overflows? So when you talk about not losing hope,
Yes.
what does that look like for you?
So for me, I have accomplished a lot in life, but for me, my success really delves deeply into living wholeheartedly every day on purpose. I'll say that again. I live wholeheartedly every day on purpose. And that starts with me being able to be resilient, because life is going to life. We all know that. But being able to have that faith and an attitude of gratitude. So I may be losing my house because in the story, I lost my house, but I was still resilient enough to be a mom, to be a daughter, to be a sister, and still have faith that, listen, when I pack up this U-Haul and I head to Florida, God has something waiting for me. So I get up every morning despite what's going on in life. And I thank God that He still has me walking in my purpose. I still get to influence, support, to help, to acknowledge, and to teach those less fortunate than me.
Dr. Riley, thank you for sharing that. There are so many women and men. We know that domestic violence
I can you, a little bit louder?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now, yes.
Yes. I know.
Talk to the mic, Dr. LaQuisha. Let's see. We're having a slight
Technical difficulties.
So she's going to change the mic. So we're going to switch the mic with Dr. LaQuisha. So she wants to continue to engage you with her questions. So she's coming on to the other side here in the studio. This is absolutely live in the studio.
Yes.
Sometimes we have to switch and move. And I definitely know the question that she was impressed upon her heart. I definitely feel that not only do we need to hear in the studio, but our listening audience needs to hear the question that Dr. LaQuisha wanted to engage.
Hi, Dr. Lara.
Hi.
Better?
Yes.
Awesome. So as we know that domestic violence is just not with women, but we know that men are also suffering, right?
Yes.
What would you tell those who are silently suffering? Because even with the affirmations that you quoted, I am worthy, I will always have faith, I will never give up, I am not enough. When were you able to identify that you are worthy, you are enough? Because I know that this isn't something that a lot of persons love to talk about, and they are silently suffering. So what could you tell our listeners who are silently suffering? How are you able to get out?
So I was ashamed for a long time that I allowed this to happen. That was my thought process. How could I allow this to happen to me? And when I think I really came to terms with the fact that I was an abused woman. It took me a while, but I didn't tell anyone. My mom didn't know. My children, of course, observed, but I hid it very well. And so when I decided to reach out for counseling and for therapy, I thought maybe a stranger would understand better than the people that are close to me. And I was so wrong, because my family was there to support once they found out. So please do not suffer in silence. If you can start with a stranger, a therapist, a counselor, a pastor, the church, start there. But most times, if your family don't know, they can't help you.
That's true.
Reach out to someone.
So even with that, reaching out to your family, I have played a lot of, oh, I'm happy, I'm smiling,
Yes,
you
yes,
know, filtering down on what's the real.
yes.
And so we want to be able to tap into something that is not seen. Did anyone in your circle or your family member knew that you were suffering?
Well,
Or how was that process for you?
well, I speak about it in my book where my mom, very spiritual, my grandmother, very spiritual, and they would always call when I was going through something. And my grandmother would pray. She probably felt that I needed prayer. And my mom would call because my mom is from another country, she would call and say, "Are you okay?" without asking any questions. And she would pray. She would pray for me. She'd say, I really prayed for you this morning because I felt in my spirit that something was wrong. So again, a lot of, and then I had friends that became family through this whole ordeal. So you may have family members that aren't, as close to you, or you don't feel comfortable, but you may have friends that you trust. But the idea of just not saying anything and suffering in silence, I learned that reaching out even to a friend that has become family, praying, meditating, and asking for prayer from your prayer warriors or your, spiritual people that are spiritual around you, reach out to them because you don't have to suffer alone.
Right. Yeah. So now let's talk about this book, right?
Yes.
And I know you had mentioned it. What would you love for our listeners to get out of, or anyone who has purchased this book, or what would you like for them to get out of it?
I'm just going to read one of the paragraphs at the end of the book. I insisted that this be included. And it says, "I Am Enough is a riveting story about strength and determination that will empower single parents, male or female, with tools to strengthen their faith, increase their ability to set goals, and practice persistence." In this memoir, Rachel walks readers through adversities of a divorced mom who overcomes struggles and challenges. She is me. And I know that it wasn't easy, but my faith brought me through. That faith and that resilience.
Yes. I'm still over there in silence, processing because this is what we call those refracted mirrors. Because your body of work, your story, like I said, we were kindred. It was like, for me, a Mary and Martha experience, right? With my room leaked. And it was just like, wow. Okay, God, it's funny that, oftentimes, when we feel like, okay, Lord, when we are in our private spaces, and for me carrying this thing before God, because, when you're going, like you said, in silence, but for me, I've been in that place of silence, but I know for me, I've been, in this season, it's been God carrying me in a space of privacy.
Yes.
Not a sense of silence, because when you're going through, when your faith and your hope are at these intersections of life, and it's like, okay, God, I need you to cover me, so that way, if there's any traps and setups from the adversary, I'm not trying to give them no ammunition.
Yes.
A bit harder, right?
Yes.
So in that, for single parents who are navigating life, who may have lost hope along the way, and they don't realize that even though they may say, okay, I'm losing hope, for me, my faith is fractured. I had to remind myself, my faith is still intact, and I still got hope, because I'm still in the thick of it, thinking it through, praying it through, pushing myself through. That's that resilience.
Yes.
And oftentimes people beat themselves up, feeling like, oh, I'm sinning, I'm giving up on God. But they're really coming to a place of self-discovery.
Exactly.
So in this precarious, procure, and obscure place of self-discovery, what type of words of encouragement, or even little practical little nuggets for them to have? I said, like my daily, like I say, give us this day, my daily bread. So what kind of little nuggets we can get on this day to get this good daily bread? 'Cause for me, that's my prayer every single morning, because I need those little nuggets, those crumbs, every
Single day, yes.
showing up.
Yes, and even though you may go through something at 50, and I'm going through things now, but it's the way I respond, the way I call, I look to God, and He prepares me with every obstacle. He prepares me to deal with it in a better way. And so every morning, my affirmation is, I am worthy. I will never give up. I will always have faith. I say this every morning in the mirror. I am enough, and I am living I have to go through this life with a passion, and my passion is to empower women, especially because we go through so much. And my passion is to work with women, to empower them, to teach them how to be resilient. Self-care.
Yes.
Self-care is so important. And I make it a point to every weekend, even if I go to the beach or I go get a massage. I mean, those are external things. But internally, every weekend I sit with myself and I look at my accomplishments, the little things for the week. Instead of breaking down and crying today, I was able to pray through things and come up with a solution. That's huge.
Yes.
So you pat yourself on the back for the little things. And you increase your resilience as you go on, because resilience is something that you have to learn. It's a skill that you learn. Not everyone has it.
Yes.
And so it has to be built. And as you go through the challenges of life, it's not easy. But then again, reaching out to a pastor, a life coach who can help you build this strength so that you can continue through life, because life is going to life.
Yeah, like
I was trying to have a whole lot of trouble. I mean, when Bishop preached that, I was like, for real, Bishop? The Bible just guaranteed. I mean, it tell me right there. You guaranteed. The moment you born, I was like, well, okay?
Life is going to life.
They always say that you're either in a storm, going through a storm, or coming out of a storm. So everyone can be able to identify. We may be at different stages of our lives,
Yes.
different seasons, but we can all identify with different storms and different seasons that we all have to go through.
Of course.
And it's just a matter of going. So I heard you said even, staying still. And even that is a skill. Because I tried the whole meditation and trying to stay still, and I've gotten to maybe 7 minutes now, but that's hard.
Yeah.
But it's not consistent. I was like, oh my God, but that is just staying still.
You know, it's so funny. So even in that, right? So it's so funny where getting to that place of meditation and my mind being busy, then I'm like, how do I go to sleep? So even going to still, thank you, Holy Spirit, God was like, I even needed you to rest in your meditation.
Yes.
Because you keep going and going. Like, God put me to sleep. Okay, so I'm going to put you to sleep, and then I'm going to go ahead and pour into you. Right?
Yes.
I ain't supposed to be sleeping a minute. Like, my body, really go in and be surrendered.
Yes.
Knocked out.
Yes.
And come back, and it be like a little pound. I'm like, ooh. Wait a minute, what just happened? What kind of service? What I need to do? Kind of nap? Let me start to meditate a little bit more. Like just supercharged, right? Literally supercharged. So you're talking about they're sitting still. So Dr. Riley, oftentimes, I'm not a practicing caregiver in the sense of the psychology space, but I am trained, but I'm not practicing therapist at, it's been a few years. But in that, talk about the power of sitting with yourself. And that is a challenge for a lot of people. Don't want that face, that accountability. Because to me,
Yes.
you sit with yourself, that's how you breathe and nurture accountability?
Well, even sitting with yourself, I was going to say, God speaks to you. Sometimes we don't listen. We hear those voices. We know what to do, but we do what we want to do. In your stillness, you hear his voice saying, this is what I give you. And I'm going to tell you exactly what to do. You're going to get that vision. You're going to get that voice. But sometimes we don't take heed to what's being said. Even in that stillness, in that meditative state, sometimes just breathing, if we learn how to breathe, control our breathing, and just not thinking about anything else but that moment. And pretend you have a beam from God to you. If you sit in that space, in that moment, there's a beam of light between you and God, and you sit in that moment without thinking about the FPL bill and how many times you know what you got to cook and how many times you had to stop in traffic, and block all of that out and sit with him. Start at 5 minutes. Give yourself a timer, 5 minutes. Don't give up. Then 7, then 10. You can walk and meditate.
Yeah, sure can.
So walk, take a walk away from the distractions and just walk and meditate. And sit still and listen. Because I've gotten a lot of, this book, the idea came to me when I was meditating. And so we get a lot of our answers when we're still. So challenge yourself to sit still alone for 5 minutes. Start off at 3. Let's start at 3. 3 minutes without thinking of anything else but self and stillness. And you'd be surprised how much you would hear. If you listen, you will hear.
If you listen, you will hear. I think that is so good, because I think it's this month we hear a lot of things about domestic violence and mental health,
Yeah.
and I believe that we are now hearing more about it because years ago, maybe 20 years ago, we weren't hearing about this a lot.
People
I
with
think
shame and
Exactly.
guilt.
Shame, guilt, and then even with our culture, therapy, no, we're not doing therapy. Now students are more open to it, and I love this platform that Davika and I share. We've been talking about this for years, and I'm so glad that a lot of persons are being open to mental health. They're open to seeking counseling, and not shying away from it.
Yes.
Because one of the things that I do know is that if you don't address something, it shows up in other ways.
Yes.
And what's been happening with our community, even when we said, oh, women don't get along. No, it's something bigger than that. Like, certain group of women do not get along. So I applaud you for getting free so that you can free so many other women.
Yes.
So I applaud you for that, Dr. Riley.
And speaking of training, because I know like her time, you know what happens when you get talking good, time just goes by so fast.
Yes.
I know we wanted to bring you back because I definitely would love for us to come back and have that conversation. Because as I was away with the United Negro College Fund National Leadership Conference in Jacksonville this weekend, things they were talking about, you thinking with young folks with this prison, the pipeline system, and I know you don't want to get into your mental health professional experience in the federal prison system at a later time. I want to talk about what that looks like, because the immersions of young girls and women are now one of the highest populations in the federal prison system, and I would definitely love that when we can schedule a later time to really bring some awareness and some advocacy, because we know that blacks are disproportionately affected by it, and how that's even just affecting everything when it comes just to access, healthcare, family growth,
Yes.
infant mortality rate, all these different systems, these oppressive systems that are in place, that when we are not sitting on ourselves and when we are walking around feeling defeated, broken, and we do system because of choices, right?
Yeah.
Not having proper resources in these choices. So we definitely,
It's all a cycle.
yes, it is a cycle. It's a vicious cycle. And so that's why I love the fact when you declare, I am worthy.
Yes.
I will always have faith. That right there,
Yes.
yes, I will never give up. But more importantly, when you can declare and sit and know that you
I am
are
enough. Yes.
wow, that will equip you to make better, well-informed decisions, even in the midst of adversity
Yes.
and being in a hard-pressed place. So I thank you, Juan. I thank you so much for your time. But before we go, as we transition, we have like 2 more minutes left. Here at the Good Success segment, we talk about, we encourage you to figure out how do you define success? Like, what does success look like for you? Share what is good success means to thee, Dr. Rachel Riley.
Success for me is continuing this journey, this passion I have for building not just my resilience, but going through life and building the resilience of other women. Success for me is just being at peace with who I am, the decisions I've made through life. And right now I'm at peace. So I think I'm a successful woman just based on the fact that I've gotten to this point of being at peace with who I am.
I'm writing that down. One naked.
That's something you can't purchase.
You can't. And I'm not saying life is not lifing, but I am so at peace that I'm able to overcome. So, yes.
That's good. So as we wrap up this segment, tell our listeners how they can purchase a copy of your book, follow you, and also connect with you on the social media streets.
Sure. So I am on Instagram at RachelARiley.lifecoach. I am also on Instagram, I Am Enough My Journey. And the book is actually on Amazon. So if you pull up I Am Enough by Rachel Ann Riley, you'll see a bright yellow book with sunflowers, my favorite color.
I heard a phone. I know. I heard a phone ring.
Okay, so right now, well, thank you for that. Thanks for joining us here on the Good Success segment.
Thank you so
And
much.
after the break, we have another special guest. Thank you, Dr. Riley.
Thank you. Bye.